Hello Stampin' Buddies, it's Lori from Lori's Little Bit of Crafting. I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in the United States, in Wisconsin to be a little more specific. And it's about 11:30 p.m. on Thursday, February 27th. And Late Night Lori is coming to you today with a cute little tissue holder, all right? Here's one that I made some time ago, and you can tell if you do Stampin' Up! Stuff, this is an older paper that hasn't been around for a while. So I thought I would revamp it and do something using some current product. Well, current until tomorrow, because this paper, which is the Bloom Impressions, was a Sale-A-Bration item that I got for free, and Sale-A-Bration ends tomorrow. So you can get free stuff through tomorrow. You can join my team and get a bonus through tomorrow. So Sale-A-Bration is Stampin' Up's biggest sale of the year, but it ends on the 28th. So check out some of my past online classes. I've talked about Sale-A-Bration. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time with it because I want to get down to business. So this paper that is available for free is really quite pretty. It's got a lot of variety in the colors that it offers. So you can see from the floral side, this is actually the back side of this one. And this one we're going to use. This one I used, and that's like a pumpkin pie. Shy Shamrock. I think that's Petunia Pop. And Azure Afternoon. So lots of pretty colors in there. And I've already cut some of my things and kind of started this one so we can kind of have a template so you know what we're shooting for. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go over the products that I'm using real quick so that I can get those out of the way. Some of these things I have pre-cut, all right? So we are using this Baker's Twine, which is a 3-color pack that's in the annual catalog. For this one, I'm using a yellow, okay? So it's Daffodil Delight, but it's in the yellow family, all right? So I have that ready. So I'm going to get rid of that for right now. I am using this white ribbon. It's a 1/2-inch ribbon. It's very flexible. It ties really easy. This is an online exclusive. I'm going to get that out of my way because I cut a bunch. And I cut these at about 20 inches long because it's going to wrap around our box. And I'm actually going to make a bow, and then we're going to tie the tag on. Okay, we might put some, some embellishments on there. We could color this. I'm probably not going to do that tonight, but I might do it for the boxes that I'm making. So we'll see. All right. The other thing I'm using is there is a punch that I used to do this. All right, so that I could make the little pockets, so the little finger indentation. You could put it on both sides of your box, but then you'd also have to trim some of this because it's going to be too thick to go through all of those. So I'm thinking if you just trimmed this a little bit, like so, if we just go like that, that would probably be enough. It didn't seem like it was going to overhang too awful much. All right, so there is a punch, but there is also a set of dies. So there's this set of 3 dies, and that's the Labeled with Love dies. This is the Labeled with Love punch, and there's also a Labeled with Love stamp set that I'm not using today. All right, so I just have this out so you can see it. And normally, we have a punch or we have dies. This one, they made both. So that's pretty cool. All right, so we're going to use that. And then we are using this Just For You out of the So Sincere. This was in a mini catalog in 23. It carried over to the annual catalog that goes through the first part of May. And we're also going to use this little flower. So you can see that's how I did this from this Wildflower Designs. This is also an annual catalog item, and you can see that I've only used that one stamp so far. I need to use it more. So what I did was I put my stamps on my die cut, and I lined up where I wanted it. I put my block on top of it, and then I can just stamp them both at the same time, which is great if you're just using a single color. All right. If you want to use different colors for each thing, obviously you'll want to put them on separate blocks. Okay. So I'm going to do that. And these circles I cut out using this kind of floral edged circle from the Spotlight on Nature dies. These are in our annual catalog. And there is a stamp set that goes with that as well. So I already have a bunch of those die cut, so I'm not going to waste time die cutting those. You've seen me die cut before. Okay, so we'll get those put away. And let's get down to business. All right, I'm going to move these out of the way as well. And we're going to start some work here. Okay, so out of one sheet of our 8.5 by 11 cardstock, you can actually get 2 of the box shapes. All right, so let me move these out of the way. I don't want to lose them because that's kind of what I do. So these, I'm not getting paid by the company, so I'm not going to say their name. I don't want to get in trouble. But these tissue packets come, I got them as a 3-pack from the $1.25 store, is what I call it now, because it's not the dollar store anymore. Everything's at least $1.25. And I've matched them up. So this is Pumpkin Pie, which is pretty close to the colors that they had here. This is Blackberry Bliss. I thought it looked really cute with that little packet. And this is, yeah. What color is this? Petunia Pop. Whew. I was going to say Poppy Parade, but that's not it. So I thought that color went well with the outline of the flowers. It's pretty darn close. All right. So I'm using pieces of the designer series paper that I've already cut down. Excuse me. So if you want to get your designer series paper ready, you need 4 pieces. They are all going to be 4 inches tall. Okay. So if you take a piece of your designer series paper and just cut a 4, if you've got a 12 by 12, you could actually get 3 strips that are 4 inches, and that would basically be the size of card fronts for you, and you could trim them down to 6 inches. And then you'd have like 6 card fronts ready to go. All right. So this is 2 inches by 4. And you need 2 of them. And this is 3/4 inches by 4, and you need 2 of those. All right. So I'm going to set these off to the side. I'm going to set this one off to the side because we're not going to make a whole bunch of them tonight. All right. And then I'm going to put this back over with that. And these I already have started. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our piece of cardstock and we're going to cut it to 7 inches wide. I want 7 inches. And then I need 5 1/4. So I'm going to turn it this way, and I'm going to cut 5 1/4, and then I'm going to cut my next one to 5 1/4. And I'm probably going to end up with like an inch. So that would be 10 1/2. So I'll have a 1/2 inch. All right. So there's not a whole lot of waste, but I can get 2 of them out of here. Before I cut it midway, I'm going to do my score lines. All right. Because we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 score lines in this. And I may as well score 2 at the same time, right? So I'm going to get my trimmer. And that goes with this. So I'm going to set this over here. So I'm going to get my trimmer. And I'm going to extend the arm because I need it at 7 inches. So our paper is 8 1/2. So I could go like this and measure to my 7 here, or without the arm, I know that if I use the right side past the track, here's an inch, right here is an inch and a half, right to the edge of the white part. So this is 1 inch, 1 1/4, 1 1/2. So I know I need to get this down to 7. If it's 8 1/2, I know I need to take off an inch and a half. So I'm going to go ahead and take off my inch and a half. I'm going to make sure it's pressed all the way up into the track here because that will stop it. And this I can save for something else or I can get rid of it. All right, I have got so many scraps, so it's going in my recycle bin. All right, so here then I've got this 7-inch side and get that flattened there. I'm going to do my scoring. So I want my cutting blade out of the way. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to score it at a 1/2 inch. Now when it's narrow pieces like that, I like to use to the right side of the track. So work with me here. I'm going to score this at a 1/2 inch. Okay. And I'm going to score it a few times just because I want a nice deep score. Then I'm just going to turn this over. So it's as if I did 1/2 inch here. And it might be because I'm left-handed, I don't know, but I just find scoring at a 1/2 inch here, I struggle to keep my paper where it needs to be because I've got nothing to hold on to with my left hand, all right? And this one, most of the paper is hanging off the trimmer, so it just doesn't work as well for me, all right? So we're gonna score it at a 1/2 inch. We're gonna score it again at 1 1/2 inches. And then we're gonna go to 3 3/4. So hopefully you can see this. So we're going to go to 3 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. So just a 1/4 inch shy of 4. And we're going to score that. And then we're going to go to 4 3/4. All right. And this came partially out of my track. There we go. All right, so then what I'm going to do is cut it at my 5 1/4. All right, so I've got 5 1/4. We're going to cut these apart. Okay, and then this one I also need at 5 1/4. So I'm just cutting off that 3/4. No, I need 5 1/4. So it's that 1/2 inch that we talked about. Math is hard at 11:45 in the evening, I guess. And this is just garbage. So there's not a whole lot of waste, all right? So now I'm gonna get my cutting blade out of the way and I'm gonna score this at 1 inch. So again, I'm moving it to that side of my track and I'm just gonna score this at 1 inch. I'm gonna take this one and I'm gonna score this one at 1 inch. So now I have the templates for 2 boxes ready to go, okay? So one of these I'm just going to set aside, all right? So here what we can do is fold our score lines. And I probably didn't make those as deep as I needed them to be. And I'm looking, whoops, sorry, looking for my bone folder here. All right, so we're just going to burnish all of our score lines. And with the dark paper, you might not be able to see where those are, but they're there, okay? You'll be able to see it fine when you've got it face to face on your own, all right? So we have created a box, all right? So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put some tear and tape on this right now. And I covered that. So I'm going to take tear and tape and just put it on this upper 4 inches. So we'll go like this because that's going to adhere my box closed. All right. And then when I go like this, because I have this on the inside to reinforce, I'm going to put some tear and tape on the opposite side on that 4 inch length, as close to the edge as I can get it without going over, so that when these come together, there's going to be adhesive on this whole 1/2 inch. Some of it's going to come from this side and some of it's going to be on that side. All right. So we're going to stop there for right now. Now I'm going to get my snips and we are going to cut this rectangle away. And I want to take the score line with it. All right. So we're going to cut that out. And again, I'm going to go just above my score line. All right. So that's garbage. So then I'm going to slightly miter this. And I'm going to slightly miter this one. You don't need a whole lot, just enough. And here I'm going to cut this one straight up, taking that score line out. Here again, I'm going to go straight up and I'm going to leave the score line on that side because I do not want that score line bump on my flap. All right. So here I'm going to just miter slightly, and then here I'm going to cut straight up, taking out that score line. All right. So let's get rid of those pieces. So now what I want to do is get some more tear tape ready to go on here. All right. And I'm just going to burnish that down because that'll make it easier to get that paper off later. So when I put this together, this is basically going to be the back of my box, but I want that little 1/2 inch on the inside. I don't want it showing on the back of my box. All right. So that means that this flap, I want to be toward the back. I don't want to have a flap like this so I can see the base of the seam to the front of my box. Does that make sense? So this one's going to go in first. All right. So the back flap is going to come in first. So that means I want to put some tear tape right here. And you don't have to be probably as picky as I get with some of these boxes. But I like them so that they look nice from the front and all of the seams are to the back. All right. So as we're just kind of holding this in place, there's my seam that's going to be in the back. This is going to fold in. So I want tear tape here. These are going to fold in and that tear tape is basically going to hold those flaps down. And then this is going to be the bottom basically, but that open edge is going to be toward the back of that box, which means I need tear tape on this side. So I'm going to put a piece of tear tape here. If you prefer to use glue, have at it. All right. Glue will work very well for this as well. All right. So let's just burnish this. We'll burnish this. So when we're looking at one side, you're going to have tear tape on that little 1/2 inch. You're going to have tear tape on the far full flap. When you turn it over, you're basically going to have tear tape in what would appear to be the same places. It's just on the opposite sides. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. So this is the front because that tab is going to be in the back. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start gluing these pieces on. All right, so those are all going to get glued on there. And once, I really enjoy doing boxes. So once you start doing the boxes, and my glue doesn't want to come out. There we go. And this is a new bottle too. I think I probably just didn't put the cap on and there's some gunky stuff at the end of the bottle tip. All right, but anyway, I enjoy making decorative boxes for treats mostly. So once you do a couple of them and you kind of get the idea of how they go together, you'll get your system for what works. All right. And you might not be able to see, but excuse me, it's pretty easy when you're working on this to actually get it centered. All right, so let's glue here. And my cough was fine until I started talking again. All right. So I'm just going to line these up along here and then center it between my fold lines, my score lines, and make sure it's pretty straight. And you don't need a lot of glue, but I do like to have a thin layer around the edges because I don't like to have my edges poking out. And the nice thing with using the Tombow multi-purpose liquid glue is that you do have a little bit of wiggle room if you don't have your pieces quite in the right spot. And then we'll put our last piece on here. And you can see I usually start in the middle because that way if I get a big gloppy piece of glue, it's not going to be right at the edge where it might ooze out and make a mess. Because that's kind of my MO, is being a messy stamper or messy crafter, as the case may be. All right, so there's those. So now, just to kind of demonstrate, because this punch goes sideways, I cannot get the piece in far enough to put my indentation here, which is the beauty of having the coordinating die, the matching die that I wanted. So we are going to get out Bossy Bessie because we need the big one. Even though our die is little, that would normally work in the mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, my little Betsy, the paper is too wide to fit through that one. It can only be up to 3 inches to fit in the mini one. So let's pull out Bossy Bessie. And let me get my plates. So we need the base plate 1, we need the shim plate 2, we need a cutting plate, and we need our top cutting plate. All right. So here what I'm going to do is find my die. Because I need to go like this, you can see that it's going to be too wide. All right. Now I could go like this and tuck these under and squeeze this in. It'll just barely work. But then, because of these pieces, I am probably going to end up with a ridge on the front of my decorative box, and I don't want that. So what I'm going to do is make sure I'm working on the front of my box. All right, so my seam is going to be in the back. So I want this to be here, right? So what I want to do is wrap my piece around my bottom cutting plate. All right, and then I can line this up and maybe take a piece of washi tape to hold it in place. Hopefully this will work, like so. And then I can I'll back this up a little bit because remember, I usually pull back my shim and that cutting plate. And then when I put my top cutting plate on, I do that flush with my base plate so that it can grab easier as it goes through. All right. And if you hear that little creaking sometime, it just means that you've not cut with a die in that particular place on your plate. All right. So not a big deal. That's normal. And you could kind of hear it pop too because it was kind of thick. All right. So look at how cute that is. So there's a little outline. Now we can start putting this together. All right. So let me get this out of the way. We're only going to put one together tonight, but I wanted to show you some of the color combinations that are possible with that one pack of paper. All right. So I'm going to put my die back on my magnet because I don't want to lose it. And I have a tendency of losing things. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fold this over. The 1.5 inch flap, I'm going to fold all the way over. And just work with me here. All right. I'm going to take off the release paper on that side and on this side. So now you know why they're on opposite sides of the paper. So that is on the front and this is kind of on the back. So fold over that 1.5 inches. And now when you fold this panel over, that 2-inch panel, they're going to meet. This adhesive is going to go to the edge of here, and this piece of adhesive goes to the edge of here. So we can lay that flat, and we have our nice little box. Okay, so now with these, because this is the back, remember, this flap comes in first. So I want to peel this off, and I'm going to tuck that in. And then I'm going to tuck in my sides, and I'm going to get this piece of release paper off of here, or backing or whatever. And I'm going to get my box so that it's straight. I kind of want it, hopefully you can see that okay, where it's square. I'm going to push these down, and the tear and tape is not very forgiving, so you want to make sure that you're pretty much where you need to be when you get it stuck on there. All right, now the reason why I do it the way I do it, and let me put that cover back on so I don't poke myself, is that now, and you're not going to be able to see this, but in the inside of my box now, I don't have any loose flaps. Okay, so because I put the big section in first, then I put the little flaps over there, and now I put this other larger piece here. All right, and part of this doesn't want to stick because of those flaps. You could cut the flaps a little bit shorter to make sure that it sticks, or just don't let that be an issue for you. And I'm not going to let it be an issue for me. All right, so this is the box that's going to go here, and see how nice that fits in there. And then we're going to take a piece of this ribbon, and we're going to tie this around here, and we're going to make a nice little bow. Now for me, when I make my bows, if you do your crossover and then just pull them at right angles, that will help your ribbon lay flat. But for me, I have to kind of go upside down, and I'm going to do my bunny ears, which is like how I learned to tie shoes when I was in kindergarten, I think. And I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so I've got more room to work with. But I'm just going to do my bunny ears, push one through, and make a bow. And that way my tails are heading down in the direction that I want them to go. All right, except that one doesn't want to work. Guess we'll go this way. We'll make it work. All right, so I'm just going to cinch this until the bow looks kind of how I want it to look. That's pretty cute. And then I'm going to take my ribbon scissors, and I'm going to trim and trim. So here we can try to finagle so that that goes behind the bow. And then this little piece, I'm going to wrap around the bow and just tie a knot. Oh, and I guess I really don't want yellow for this one. I want white for this one, because there's no yellow in there. So let's just see if we can feed this back in here. I might have to use my pokey tool. Well, I guess I got it. I also have a needle threader that works really well for some of these twines that have multiple threads in them. All right, so now let's wrap this around, and I'm just going to tie a knot. And then these can hang down here and just be part of the decoration. But I'm going to trim them down so that they're not any longer than my ribbon tails. And then we need to see if we want some kind of gem on there. Those are not white. Let's see. That would probably work. Put a couple of these on here. These are the Glossy Dots assortment. And these are pretty flat. So my take your pick tool does not work particularly well. There. So there is our cute little box. Here was the old version, and here is today's version. So now what I can do is I'll have one ready to make another one, and then I'll be able to make two out of this one, and that will be quite pretty too with that package of tissue. All right. So if you need a cute little, you know, maybe a teacher gift or a thank you gift for, you know, your postal carrier or something, there you go. And I know we're kind of getting past cold and flu season, but there's still plenty going around. So you can always use Kleenex. People have allergies throughout the year, so it's a suitable gift anytime. So that's all I have for you tonight, folks. Thanks for stopping by and watching my free online class or tutorial, however you want to label it. If you like any of these products and you would like to shop with me, if you'd like to get this paper for free, that does take a minimum $60 product order from Stampin' Up. But there's all kinds of freebies in the Sale-A-Bration pamphlet, as well as some new things that they added at the beginning of February. So these were some add-on items. And these are some really nice items. All right. So there's also a super joining offer. If you are interested in getting a discount, getting products delivered right to your door, you can order them early. You get advance access to the catalogs if you join my team. So there's a whole lot of perks. I would like to add one more team member before tomorrow. So if anybody's interested, let me know. So until next time, happy stampin'.